A jury is now hearing arguments whether a Columbus County man should get the death penalty in a woman's murder. We can tell you James McCamey was found guilty last week in the stabbing death of Carol Greer back in 2016. McCamey was also found guilty of attempted murder in the stabbing of Rashonda Love. The death penalty hearing began this morning. Jurors began hearing arguments about 11:30, about half an hour ago now. After a couple of hours were dedicated to reviewing new evidence. A decision likely will not be made today on whether McCamey should get the death penalty. We'll keep you updated on air and online as more information becomes available. Be sure to stay tuned following the story inside WECT News app for the very latest updates from Columbus County.